The war against ROMs and ROM websites rages on. The answer is physical media, but it doesn't last forever, and neither do the cartridge slots or optical drives that read them. That's why now is the perfect time to start backing up your PSP discs into digital format. You're about to learn 3 things: how to back up your physical games, how to back up your physical movies, and how and where to put those backups on your PSP once they're completed. Along with a jailbroken PSP and your disc, you're going to need the following: a Windows-based PC, a USB cable that matches your model of PC, and it can be either USB-A or C on the other end, and either a Memory Stick Pro Duo for your PSP, or if you have a PSP Go, you'll need the specific memory card that matches that model. I have all of these linked for you in the video description. Let's take care of a few preparatory steps with your PSP before you get started. From the cross-media bar of your PSP, scroll all the way over to the left until you get to the Settings tab. From here, scroll down a bit until you see the listing that says System Settings and press the X button to select it. You'll have to turn off the UMD Auto Start function or it will interfere with the backup process. Scroll down to the listing that says UMD Auto Start. Press the X button, and if this setting is turned on, use the D-pad to scroll up to off and select off with the X button to turn it off. If you're like me and you still charge your PSP with a wall wart, that's awesome. But if you're charging over USB, you might as well make sure that's enabled here since we're going to be plugging in your PSP to a USB connection shortly. Come down to USB charge, press the X button, and in the pop-out side cart menu, come down to on and press X to select it. You'll save yourself some button mashing if you turn on USB Auto Connect from here. Scroll down to the listing for USB Auto Connect, press the X button, and in the side cart menu that pops out, change this setting from off to on with the D-pad, and press the X button to lock in the change. With all of these system settings dialed in, press the circle button to go back to the main menu of the cross-media bar. Let's start by backing up a game. Go ahead and insert the game of your choice into your PSP. Flat side goes up, shiny side faces forward. Give your PSP a minute to recognize the disc you've inserted. It should automatically come over to the Game tab on the cross-media bar and recognize your game. In this case, Star Wars Battlefront 2. It won't auto-start the disc since we've already made that change in system settings. I'm just going to push up on the D-pad here to clear the preview from the screen. Your modded PSP system should give you access to what's called the VSH menu or Virtual Shell menu. If you press the select button on your device, you'll see a new menu pop up in the left corner of your screen. Let's zoom in for a closer look. Take a look at the listings here. You'll see that one of them says USB device, and if you look next to it to the right, you'll see a listing that says memory stick. This means if you connect your PSP to your PC right now over the USB connection, it will connect to the memory stick. What we want to do is change the settings so that it can read the contents of a UMD disk rather than the memory stick. Scroll the blue highlight down to this listing with the D-pad and then press one time to the left. Now your PC will be able to read the contents of a UMD disk in the UMD drive. All you have to do to lock in this change is just press the select button on your device again. It will also clear the VSH menu from the cross-media bar. At this point, go ahead and connect the appropriate USB cable to your PlayStation Portable. Then connect the other end of the USB cable to an open port on your PC. Your PSP should jump from wherever it is on the cross-media bar to the System tab and automatically launch your USB connection. Over on your Windows PC, it should open up the File Explorer application, and you should now see a single file that's called UMD9660.ISO. It's important to note that every single disk that you mount this way to your computer is going to be named UMD9660.ISO. Since you've done all the prep work, it's actually super easy to copy these over. All you have to do is right-click on it and copy it like you would any other file. For this example, I have a folder that I have custom created on my computer that's called Demo. You won't have a folder called Demo on your computer. I just have it on mine to have a place to demonstrate things on YouTube. I also have a subfolder here called ISO, and we'll talk about what to do with that in just a moment. For now, all you have to do is right-click in an open space and select Paste to copy over the .ISO file from your PSP. As the backup runs, it's worth taking a look at a couple of points. First of all, the maximum size of a UMD is around 1.8 gigabytes. This game, Star Wars Battlefront 2, is a little bit less than half of that. Second, the speed of that UMD drive is not exactly blazing fast. It averages around 1.3 to 1.4 megabytes per second of read speed. And finally, the real-time backup took about 10 minutes. Since every disk image is going to be called UMD9660, you'll need to rename your newly created backup now. In this case, I'm just going to single click on the name of the file and then rename it to something that's easy to recognize. Since the game is called Star Wars Battlefront 2, that's what I'll name it. Your PSP game backups will need to live in a folder called ISO. For this example, I've already made a folder called ISO here, so I'm going to grab the newly created game backup and drag and drop it into the ISO folder. You gotta like ISOs. After all, they're the miracle, man. Let's take a look at what's inside this ISO subfolder. I've already created some game backups from the other UMDs I have. No matter whether you create your own backups or you already have backed up games, they'll need to live in a folder called ISO on the root of your PSP memory stick or PSP Go storage. If you decide to back up movie discs, they'll need to live in a subfolder inside the ISO folder called Video. Let's take a quick moment to dump a movie disc because movies have their own unique considerations once you have them backed up. Start by removing your game disc and inserting the movie disc of your choice. Whether you're backing up a movie or a game, it makes sense to press the circle button to break the USB connection between your device and your computer. It stops Windows from getting confused because you've already got a copy queue for UMD 9660 from the last game that you dumped. It just stops Windows from getting confused, and as we all know, Windows is masterful at getting confused. So here's the movie I've selected, Kung Fu Hustle. With the movie of your choice inserted, you can go right back over to Settings, go back to USB connection, and press the X button to reestablish the connection between your device and your PC. Dumping a movie disc is exactly the same as dumping a game. It'll be called UMD9660.ISO. It's the same process as dumping a game, so I'll abbreviate it here. Right-click on the file, select Copy, go to the location where you want to copy it over, right-click to dump the movie disc file over to your computer. Skip the 9 months to get to the baby, and here's the ISO file. Remember that every one of the files that you copy over is automatically named UMD9660, so you'll need to rename these in order to prevent overwriting a backup that you've already created. Alright, I'm going to go a little old school on this one. I'm going to come down to Show More Options and select Cut. Remember, movie files need to live inside the ISO folder and inside a subfolder called Video. Inside this folder, I'm going to right-click and select Paste. Cut and Paste takes the file from the original location and moves it into the new one without creating a duplicate. Nice! Now that you've got the movie file in place, you can go back one level in the navigation structure, back to the ISO folder. To get set up for the next step, I'm going to grab this File Explorer window and then drag and drop it over to the left side of the screen and snap it into place. On your PSP, press the circle button to disconnect the USB connection between your PSP and your computer. Back in the VSH menu, you'll need to set the device connection type back from USB to memory stick. To do this, just like before, press the Select button to pull out the VSH menu in the top left corner of the screen. Just like you did before, use the D-pad to scroll the blue highlight down to the listing that says USB device. This time, press to the right on the D-pad to change this listing from UMD disk back to memory stick. To lock in this change and close out the VSH menu, press the Select button. Now you can re-establish the USB connection between your PSP and your computer by pressing the X button on USB connection. Once the File Explorer window for your memory stick or PSP Go storage appears, you can take this window and then drag and drop it over to the right side of the screen and snap it into place as well. Be sure to go all the way back to the ISO subfolder before you copy anything to your memory stick. In this case, I don't have an ISO folder already on the PSP storage, so I can just take this ISO folder on the left side of the screen and drag and drop it over to the right side of the screen. Just be really careful when you do this. Don't drop it into one of these folders. Drop it outside of these folders so you don't put it in a subfolder where your PSP can't locate it. If you already have an ISO folder on your device, you can either merge the two together or just individually copy your games and movies over into it as needed. That's everything you have to do on your PC. You can transition back over to your PSP for the remainder of this guide. Go ahead and disconnect the USB cable from your PSP. You can also remove any UMD disk that's inside the UMD drive. Let's take a moment and make sure that everything went to plan. Slide all the way over to the Game tab in the cross media bar. Then scroll down to the listing for memory stick and select it with the X button. You'll now see the previews for the games that you copied over to the memory stick. In this case, Battlefront 2, Little Big Planet, Archer McLean's Mercury, Pinball Hall of Fame, the 𝐘𝐈𝐒𝐄 collection, and RetroArch. Wait a minute, we didn't copy RetroArch over to the PSP. We'll come back to this in just a moment. Head over to the Video tab on the cross media bar, and let's see if we can find the movies there. Select Memory Stick with the X button, and there's nothing to be found. What happened? Did things not go to plan? Nah, there's just a different way to load these in. Check this out. Press the Select button to reopen the VSH menu. See how there's a listing here that says ISO Video Mount None? Use the D-pad to move this highlight down to that listing. If you press to the right, you'll change this listing to None to one of the movies that you have copied over in your library. In this case, Kung Fu Hustle. Once you have the movie of your choice selected, press the X button. It'll kind of look like your PSP is restarting, but don't worry, it's actually inserting the virtual UMD for your movie, just like this. Now you can press X to load the movie ISO, just like you would a game ISO. Remember how we came across RetroArch on this PSP? You can play thousands of your retro gaming favorites in just a matter of minutes. This video shown on screen and linked in the description and pinned comment will show you how to get RetroArch set up on your PSP in no time at all.